Welcome to Hood Politics. In this episode, I will be discussing the story of Correa McMullen. The facts of the case are as follows. Correa McMullen was born Shalva Bitka McMullen on May 24, 1989 in Westminster, Vermont. According to her family, she always had a big personality and enjoyed entertaining others. Tara's mother, Mary, and her father, Thomas, began having relationship issues, and by 1996, they had broken up. That same year, Mary, Tara, and her older sister, Abigail, moved to Northern California. Tara always wanted to be a star, but she just didn't know what kind. She was known for having a great singing voice and had been playing piano since age 4. She also danced in numerous dance troupes over the years and practiced martial arts. The family later relocated to Southern California and settled in Venice. They lived in hotels while Mary worked multiple jobs to make ends meet. Tara attended Venice High School, where she joined the school's choir and would spend her lunch break in the music room perfecting her craft. While doing so, she met a young man named Maurice Tipton. Maurice was also into music, and he recalled that on one occasion he was playing the piano in the music room, and when he looked over his shoulder, Tara was standing there watching him play. The two instantly clicked and bonded over their love for music. Their friendship continued to blossom, and soon after they became a couple. Marie said Tara was a great person, and although at times she played tough, she was really a sweetheart. During this time, Mary was working at a talent agency when she heard about a casting call. The role was for a female basketball player on an all-boys team. The agency was having trouble filling the role. Mary immediately thought of Tara and told the agency that she may be the perfect fit. Initially, Tara was nervous about the audition, but her nervousness soon grew into excitement, and she couldn't wait to try out. A few days later, Tara was in the audition room. She blew away the film's producer, and she immediately wanted Tara for the part, but the studio execs still weren't sure. They wanted someone with more experience and a bigger name for the role, but the producer stood firm on wanting Tara. Ultimately, her efforts paid off, and a few months later, at the age of 14, Tara was on set and ready to work. The film was called Rebound and starred comedic legend Martin Lawrence. Martin plays the role of a cocky college basketball coach named Roy McCormick. After losing his cool during the game, Roy is ejected, and while being taken off the court, he kicks a basketball. The ball hits and kills the rival team's mascot, Victor the Hawk. Roy is then ousted from coaching college sports, so he decides to take a coaching job at his former middle school in hopes of showing the college teams that he's changed and should be rehired. The team was terrible, and Roy had his work cut out for him. Tara plays the role of a girl named Big Mac. She's tough and known for beating up other students. Roy notices her as she fights with a group of boys. He likes her aggression and feels it could be used on the court.
You a natural. What's your name?
Big Mac.
Big Mac. Well, you coming with me, all right?
Well, no, I'm not going to detention.
It's more like work release program. All right? Trust me. Suit up. Come on, Big Mac, suit up.
Over time, Big Mac begins to shed her hard exterior and becomes the heart of the team, ultimately helping them win the state championship. By all accounts, Tara was a pleasure to work with. She was respectful and very professional. She was so appreciated that the film's crew brought her a cake to celebrate her 15th birthday on set. Soon after wrapping Rebound, Tara was picked up by a talent agency and started auditioning for different projects. She quickly landed another role on the hit TV show Judge and Amy. The show follows a family court judge named Amy Gray as she navigates cases and comes across people from different walks of life. Tara plays the role of a gang member named Graciela Reyes. Graciela had grown up rough and finds herself in Amy's courtroom after being caught with a knife in her backpack.
But I'd like you to tell me about the knife. Whose was it?
Jenny from the block.
How'd it get in your backpack?
Wardrobe malfunction.
Turn that off, Ms. Reyes.
Could be my homegirl though.
You can talk to your homegirl later.
Hey, what's going on?
Amy notices that Graciela is a good person, but just a bit misguided. The role was only for one episode, but after seeing Tara's performance, the showrunner, Carol Barbie, decided to expand the role and create a whole new storyline for her character. Season 6 of Judge and Amy was then written and centered around Amy's relationship with Graciela. Tara was ecstatic, and many felt that she was on her way to becoming a star. They likened her to a young Queen Latifah and believed that once she booked more roles, she would really be able to showcase her talent. During this time, Mary moved the family to the city of Inglewood. Initially, everyone was excited. The neighborhood looked great, and Tara even had her own bedroom, but looks can be deceiving. The neighborhood was claimed by the Centinela Park family Bloods, also known as CPF. During the day, the neighborhood was quiet and peaceful, but once nightfall hit, it was the complete opposite. Mary wanted to get her family out as soon as possible, but Tara, on the other hand, quickly adapted to her new environment, and instead of being afraid of the gang members, she became friends with them. During this time, Tara and Maurice broke up, and Tara began dating a CPF member named Christopher Avery, who went by the the nickname Junior Kick-Ass. Chris was 10 years older than Tara and was one of the most active members of CPF. He had been investigated for numerous robberies, assaults, and shootings. Tara began hanging with the gang more and more and ultimately ended up becoming a member and was given the nickname Lady Kick-Ass. Maurice recalled Tara missing his birthday and showing up to his house the following day. He said she was wearing all red and her face was beat up. She then told him she had gotten jumped into CPF the day before and showed him a tattoo that she had gotten on her chest. Maurice said every time he saw Tara, she had become less and less of the girl that he once knew. During this time, Tara landed a role on an episode of the Nickelodeon show Zoe 101. In the episode, Zoe and her friends form a disc golf team in order to skip PE, but after learning the team has to beat another school within 10 days or be dissolved, they pick a random opponent to face off with. Unbeknown to them, the school they picked is actually a youth detention center called Ridgeway. Ridgeway has its own disc golf team and Tara plays one of its players. In mid-2005, Tara began filming season 6 of Judge and Amy, and initially everything was going well. She showed up to each filming respectful and professional as always, but one day that all changed. One summer day, Tara was on set, and without telling anyone, she left the studio lot and no one knew where she went. Carol and the show's producers attempted to track her down, but were unable to find her, causing them to lose tens of thousands of dollars in production costs and making them unsure about the new storyline. Mary moved from Inglewood to the city of Glendale, roughly 20 miles northeast of Inglewood, but Tara refused to leave. She fell deeper into the streets and her relationship with Chris became abusive. He would beat her and force her to stay in the bedroom and threaten to kill her if she came out. Mary called the police on Chris multiple times, citing their age difference and the abuse, but nothing was ever done. Mary said she called so many times that officers were able to recognize her voice. Once Carol and the producers learned of Tara's situation, they attempted to help. They offered to relocate her and connect her to people that would give her the tools to change her life, but Tara refused their help. Carol called a meeting with Tara, Mary, and Tara's team. She felt that if she was able to sit down and actually speak with Tara, she would have a better chance at helping her, rather than sending letters and making phone calls. Mary and Tara's team showed up to the meeting, but Tara didn't. Mary then told Carol that Tara didn't want to be on the show anymore. Carol reached out to Tara again and asked her to meet. This time she agreed. During the meeting, Carol and the show's director, Helen Shavers, asked Tara to come back to the show and told her if she needs anything, they could help. Tara told them that she couldn't. They persisted, and Tara told them that she did something really bad and there's no coming back from it. At that point, Carol and Helen believed that Tara had committed a murder. During the meeting, Tara said that she would come back to shoot for one day. When Helen asked her to promise that she'll be there on shooting day, Tara replied that she couldn't promise that because she might be dead. Tara, Carol, and Helen set a date to shoot, and the show's writers began reworking her storyline. They chose to close her storyline out and give her as little dialogue as possible because they weren't sure how much work she was capable of doing. Carol felt that Tara was a good kid at heart and only agreed to film because she didn't want to let them down any more than she already had. When the day of filming came, Tara showed up to set and rehearsed her lines. The atmosphere was heavy. Carol stated that during the conversation with Tara, she could see the heaviness weighing on her and said Tara looked like she would burst into tears at any moment. By all accounts, the filming went well. Tara knew her lines and remained respectful and professional while on set. In the episode, Tara's character Graciela is sent to prison where she's killed by a rival gang member.
I don't think so.
IDs, please. Who'd you say you're here for?
Reyes, Graciela Reyes.
The hell?
Hello, can I get some help here? We're here for Graciela Reyes.
That's all I've got.
No, we're here to see her.
Body's already been taken.
The body? What are you talking about? She's not dead.
If I have her stuff, she's dead.
No, this is not how this ends.
After the filming wrapped, Tara's talent agency dropped her as a client. Carol told one of the show's writers that she hoped they didn't have to add an in memoriam at the end of the episode because she wasn't sure how long Tara would live. Everyone felt like they did all they could to help Tara, from one-on-one conversations to offering to relocate her to offering her the resources to leave the street life, but nothing seemed to work. Everyone feared that Tara would meet a tragic fate, and unfortunately, they were correct. On Friday, October 21st, 2005, at around 6 p.m., Tara was hanging out with a group of people in front of an apartment building located on Plymouth Street in Inglewood. Among the group was Chris, Jonathan Turnage, and Jakari Smith. Moments later, a gray Toyota Tundra made his way down the street and stopped near the group. The man inside the truck smiled at Jonathan. He then exited the truck with an AK-47. He took aim at the group and opened fire. Many asked how did Tara go from being a rising star that was ready to take Hollywood by storm to staring down the barrel of an AK-47 on a dark street in Inglewood. But to understand how this situation came about, you'll have to rewind to earlier later that year. In 2005, the Rolling 60s Crips were at war with their longtime rivals, the A-Tray Gangster Crips and the Centinela Park Family Bloods. In one incident, on Thursday, May 19th at around 1 p.m., a group of Rolling 60s were in an alley behind a liquor store on the corner of 5th and Florence Avenue. The group was filming a scene for a gang documentary. At around 3:40 p.m., two A-Tray gangsters, Joe Nash and Derek Boston, also known as Lil Wicked, ventured into 60s territory and opened fire on two men, Yusuf Brooks and a member of the 60s named Michael DePillars, also known as Baby Khaki Blue. The bullets missed Michael and Yusuf was hit, but luckily he survived. At around 6 p.m., Derek was hanging out with a group of A-Tray members near the intersection of 74th and Dinker Street in A-Tray territory. Among the group was Deontay D and Willie Richard, also known as Baby G-Ride. Moments later, two men in a white Acura drove by. One of the men said "What's up?" and flashed a gang sign. The car then left but returned shortly afterwards, and someone inside the car opened fire on the group. Willie and Deontay were both hit. The car then fled the scene. Witnesses called 911 and gave the operator a description of the suspect's vehicle. A patrol vehicle spotted the Acura and got behind it. The Acura sped away and the patrol car began pursuing it. The Acura slowed down and the passenger got out the car and ran to a nearby apartment building while holding his waist. The driver then sped away and headed eastbound on Florence Avenue. A few minutes later, the Acura stopped and the driver exited the car and lifted his shirt while saying he didn't have anything and he didn't do anything. Officers took positions behind their cruiser and ordered him to lay on the ground. As officers waited for backup, the man got up and ran. Officers set up a perimeter and the driver was captured shortly afterwards. He was a member of the 60s named Achille Williams, also known as Baby Chico. When one of the officers made it back to the police station, he told another officer about what happened and gave him a description of the Acura's passenger. They then looked through photos of Rolling 60s members and were able to identify the passenger as a member of the 60s named Kenneth Brown, also known as Lil Khaki Blue. Achille was the registered owner of the Acura, and during a search of the car, investigators found Kenneth's cell phone, a notebook containing gang writing, pictures of Rolling 60s members, and a Seattle Mariners hat, which is a hat worn by members of the 60s. Willie told investigators that he was walking down the street with Derek and Deontay when the Acura drove past them and someone inside the car yelled, "Fuck A-Tray, y'all gotta move." And about 30 seconds later, the car returned and the front seat passenger opened fire with a blue steel semi-automatic handgun. He described the occupants as two black males with braided hair wearing white t-shirts. He later identified Achille and Kenneth from photographs and said Kenneth was the shooter. Willie later denied making the statements. During the trial, the documentary was a vital piece of the prosecution's argument. Achille could be seen wearing a Mariners hat, an Echo shirt, and a blue bandana covering his face. In one scene, members of the 60s are stating their nicknames. He states his as Baby Chico. Kenneth could be seen in the documentary stating that he's a member of the 60s and he's always armed. Ultimately, Achille and Kenneth were both found guilty of 2 counts of attempted murder for the shootings of Deontay D and Willie Richard, as well as gun and gang enhancement charges. Kenneth Brown was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Achille Williams was sentenced to 50 years to life in prison. In another incident, on Wednesday, August 24th, a 21-year-old member of the 60s named Nahum Beard, also known as S-Dome, was standing outside of an apartment building with a group of friends. The building is located on 10th Avenue and is a well-known hangout for the 60s. As the group stood and talked, someone approached them and opened fire multiple times. The shooter then fled the scene. When the smoke cleared, Nahum and 2 others were hit. Witnesses called 911 and moments later, police and paramedics arrived. Nahum had been hit multiple times and died at the scene. The other 2 men went on to survive. There was almost a riot at the scene because witnesses said they saw Nahum moving underneath the white sheet, and when they told paramedics that he was still alive and needed help, they were ignored. Nahum was a beloved member of the 60s and his name could be heard in numerous Nipsey Hussle songs.
A lot of niggas died young, they never got to get old. Like 2 tall, tiny Swedes talking with S-Dome.
Within minutes, the area was flooded with 60s. They talked amongst themselves about who's responsible, and all fingers pointed to CPF. Incidents like these were rampant that year and helped set the stage for a string of incidents that would shake the city. On Thursday, October 20th, shortly after 5 p.m., 3 members of A-Tray, Kevin Ingram and brothers Lester and Andre Turner, were working on a car in front of a home on 84th Street in A-Tray territory. Shortly afterwards, Andre saw a gray Toyota Tundra stop in the middle of the street about 2 houses down. 3 hooded men exited the truck and began walking towards Andre, Lester, and Kevin. Andre was unable to see their faces as they approached and believed they may have been some of his friends. Andre asked the group what's up, and the man replied, "What's up?" and moments later gunshots rang out. One of the hooded men had an AK and the other 2 men had handguns. Andre ran into the house through the front door, Lester ran to the back of the house and jumped inside through a window, and Kevin ran through the backyard. The shooters then ran back to the Tundra and fled the scene. The home was riddled with bullets, but luckily no one was hit. About 5 minutes after the 84th Street shooting, 2 men, Paul Fry and Thomas Sanders, were at the home of Thomas's aunt, Robin Sanders. Robin's home was located on Hall Haldale Avenue, roughly a mile north from the scene of the 84th Street shooting, still in Nate Trade territory. Thomas was there to visit Robin and to do his laundry. After Thomas finished his laundry, he and Paul headed back to the car and prepared to leave. After Paul started the car, a man ran up to his window and pointed a gun at him. Paul heard 2 or 3 clicks as the man pulled the trigger and attempted to shoot. The man then ran away towards the street. Paul proceeded to back out of the driveway, and when he looked out the passenger window, he noticed a different man about 2 houses down. He was wearing a hoodie and holding an AK. Moments later, the man opened fire. Paul tried to drive away, but was hit 3 times. His car spun out of control and ended up in a nearby yard. The gray Toyota Tundra stopped near Paul's car, and the people inside of the truck looked over at Paul and Thomas before driving away. Paul later recovered, but sadly, Thomas wasn't as fortunate. He was hit multiple times and transported to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. He was 31 years old. The following night, on October 21st, the gray Tundra made his way down Plymouth Street, where Tara, Chris, Jonathan, and Jakari were hanging out. As the group sat on the fence in front of an apartment building, the truck stopped near them, and the man seated in the front passenger seat smiled at Jonathan. He then exited the truck with the rifle, while another man raised a handgun. As the group ran to the entrance of the apartment building, the men opened fire, striking Jonathan, Jakari, and Tara multiple times. The group was able to make it into the courtyard of the apartment complex. The shooters then ran back to the SUV and fled the scene. Jonathan and Jakari were each hit multiple times in the torso, but luckily they survived. Tara was hit 5 times and collapsed in the courtyard. An ambulance was called and she was transported to the hospital, where she was pronounced dead 3 hours later. She was 16 years old. The entrance to the apartment's courtyard had a metal security door, and it's believed that Chris was the first to make it into the courtyard, and after making it in, he closed the door behind him, leaving Tara, Jonathan, and Jakari stuck in the walkway for a few moments, which gave the gunmen enough time to catch up to them and open fire. Tara didn't have any ID, so investigators were having a hard time identifying her. A detective at the scene was approached by a woman. She told him that the victim was in a movie and gave him a VHS copy of Rebound. Once detectives reviewed the movie, they were able to identify Tara through the film's credits. Tara's funeral was held on Friday, October 28, 2005 at Forest Lawn Memorial. During the service, Tara was described as a girl who never judged anyone and made friends with everyone. Abigail attempted to sing Amazing Grace, but was overcome with emotion. She told the crowd that she couldn't sing anymore and walked away from the podium. Marie said Tara was an angel. He went on to say that she had a lot of obstacles in her way that took her motivation away. She kind of went wherever she got attention, but she was a good person, a sweet, giving person who cared about people and didn't want to see people get hurt. The day after the shooting, on October 22nd, police stopped the Tundra and arrested its 3 occupants: Percy Williams, Joseph Jones, also known as Capo, and Damian Watts, also known as Chopper. All were members of the 60s. Los Angeles detectives spoke with Inglewood detectives and knew the shootings had to be connected. Witnesses at each crime scene reported seeing a gray Toyota Tundra and a man with an AK exit the truck and open fire. Also, ballistics showed that the AK bullet casings collected at all 3 crime scenes were from the same gun. Before long, investigators were able to get a full scope of the events. On October 23rd, investigators visited Andre from the 84th Street shooting and asked him about the shooting. Andre told them, "Y'all think I'm stupid. I know who shot up my house. It was Chopper from 60s. I know that bitch." He went on to say that detectives had shown him pictures of Damian, but he wasn't a snitch and wasn't going to testify. Also on October 23rd, investigators interviewed Joseph. Initially, he tried to deny any involvement in the shootings, saying that someone borrowed his Tundra and he was told that Damian shot up the house on 84th Street with an AK. But during follow-up interviews, his story started to crumble and the truth came out. On October 20th, Joseph was at home when a man named Jason Weldon showed up to his house and told him that one of their friends had been shot. While the two were talking, another man named Derek Brown called Joseph and said someone threatened his father. Joseph and Jason made their way to the Tundra. They then picked up Derek and Damian. The group called another man named Anthony Padilla and told him they were going to put in work. After picking up Anthony, they made their way to 84th Street, where Damian, Jason, and Derek exited the Tundra and opened fire on Andre, Lester, and Kevin. Anthony was the driver, but was having trouble driving the truck, so Joseph told him to pull over and they switched seats. Joseph said he tried to persuade the others to go home, but they didn't want to listen. The group then made their way to Haldale Avenue. After spotting Paul and Thomas, Joseph and Derek told the others that the men weren't gang members, but Damian said stop the truck and got out with the AK. The next night, the group ventured to Plymouth Street, and Joseph and Damian opened fire on Tara, Chris, Jonathan, and Jakari. A blue shirt was left at the scene of the Plymouth Street shooting. Investigators used a vacuum device called a scent transfer unit, or STU for short, to collect scent from the shirt, as well as the scent of an AK bullet casing from the scene. 2 days later at the police station, investigators let a bloodhound inhale the scent from the shirt. The dog led its handler to Damian. 15 minutes later, investigators let the dog inhale the scent from the bullet casing. Once again, it led its handler to Damian, who was now in a different part of the police station. Jonathan from the Plymouth Street shooting identified Damian as the shooter on 2 separate occasions. First, during the February 2006 interview with detectives when he selected Damien's picture from a photographic lineup, then again in March of 2007 at the preliminary hearing. A man named Fred Johnson witnessed the 84th Street shooting and identified Damien as the shooter on 4 different occasions, once in a photographic lineup, then in another lineup in December of 2005, then again at the preliminary hearing in March of 2007, and lastly at trial. Ultimately, all the men involved in the 3 shootings received lengthy prison sentences, with 2 of them receiving the heaviest sentences. Joseph Jones was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 4 life sentences, plus 110 years to life in prison. Damien Watts was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Nearly 3 years after Tara's murder, on Saturday, September 6, 2008, at around 11:20 p.m., Chris was walking near the intersection of 99th and Hoover Street. Moments later, he was approached by 2 men. One of the men pulled a gun and opened fire, hitting Chris multiple times. 911 was called and Chris was pronounced dead at the scene. He was 29 years old. Tara's memory lives on through her family, her friends, and their work. She's remembered as someone with a good heart who was just trying to find her place in life. Tara's story serves as a cautionary tale on how a few bad decisions can lead down the path of no return. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe.